What's up, guys? Welcome to another episode of the Iron Life Podcast. I am your host, Chris Tutela, and I have a really great episode in store for you today. My guest on today's show is Luka Hocevar. If you don't know who Luka is, he's one of the leaders in the fitness industry. He's also a coach for gym owners, coaches, trainers, and man, he brought the absolute thunder today, dropped a ton of knowledge bombs, and it was really, really great to chat with him. And you guys are going to get so much out of this show. I can't wait for you to hear it. But before we dive into today's episode, I want to tell you a little bit about the Lean SOB project. That is my 6-week online fat loss nutrition coaching program for men who are specifically looking to lose anywhere from 10 to 25 pounds, or even more for that matter. But 10 to 25 pounds, that's usually the range that guys will lose over the course of the 6 weeks, where we work on developing the right nutrition habits, the right lifestyle habits, the right mindset that you're going to need for long-term success. So it's not only about taking that initial weight off, it's going beyond crushing your goals, but more importantly, maintaining those fat loss results. How many times have you either yo-yo dieted or have seen someone yo-yo dieting before? Their weight goes up, their weight goes down. They can't seem to stick to a plan. I'm sure this resonates with you. And that is not what the Lean SOB project is about. What I'm going to teach you there are the principles that are required for long-term success. I'm going to teach you how to simplify nutrition. I'm going to teach you how to structure better nutrition and lifestyle habits to your life based on your goals, based on your lifestyle, rather than me trying to fit you to a specific fad diet or something like that. That's way too common these days. What we're going to do is we're going to create structure in your life based on your job, your family, your work, your schedule, all that stuff. And finally, number 3, I'm going to teach you how to execute. I'm going to hold you accountable. I'm going to teach you. I'm going to guide you. We're going to have our weekly check-ins to make sure that you're staying on track, to see what you're struggling with, and whatever obstacles you're facing, we're going to learn how to overcome those obstacles so you could keep making progress and keep moving forward. The clock is ticking because today is Friday, the 13th. Oh, Friday the 13th. That's creepy. Friday the 13th. So tomorrow, November 14th, is the deadline to apply to register, because here's the thing. I don't just take anyone for this program. I cap it at 10 people, and you have to be the right fit. You have to be serious. You have to be ready. You have to be willing to put in the work and commit to our coaching calls. And if you fit that description, if you are truly ready, deep down inside, I want to ask you right now, are you ready to actually make a change? Because if the answer is yes, what I want you to do is head over to leansobproject.com, fill out the application right now, because again, the deadline to register, the deadline to apply, I should say, is tomorrow, November 14th, because the program kicks off this Sunday, 11:15. So make sure you head over. It's leansobproject.com, fill out an application, and if you meet the requirements, I will be in touch. With that said, guys, get ready. Go grab your notebooks, go grab your pens, and get ready for my conversation with the one and only Luka Hocevar. All right, well, Luka, welcome to the show, man. This has been definitely long overdue. We were trying to make this happen for quite some time, and we've had a little bit of chaos, I would say, the last couple months. So.
But here we are, buddy. It's how it's meant to be, like the build-up.
That's it, man. We got to live up to the hype now, but definitely excited to have you on, man. I appreciate you taking time out of your busy day over there to come on the show.
My pleasure, man. It's excited to be here, man.
Yeah. So, well, first, I guess we can't really ignore the last few months with COVID and all that. How you doing? How you holding up over there? How you feeling? What's going on?
Well, you're saying that there's been a thing going on in the world, huh? I didn't notice. I'm at this point in time, I think I said it before. I kind of try to, we'll look back and hopefully people look back and go like, wow, during that time, I learned a lot of stuff. I overcame a lot of adversity, and I'm better off for it. Sometimes when you're going through it, so it's difficult maybe to see that, but that's always been, I've tried to shift my mindset real quick. And look, perception and belief are such important factors in I would say success in life, period. That, this time is just another form of adversity. And to me, I've always been like, okay, cool. Like what can I get out of this? How can I, turn the corner? What am I learning? How can I be better after this? Now it's difficult at first. I'm not gonna say that I didn't have moments of, headbutting the wall and kind of losing my mind a little bit. When you've built a business up for 15 years and you get to a point where it really isn't kind of like your fault or decision to do stuff like, hey, you got to shut down your business and figure it out. Of course there's going to be some stress and anxiety and all types, and then for me it was like, hey, how do I keep my team, make sure they're on payroll? But then when I do that, like, you're burning money and just the stresses of being a business owner. So like, I'm not going to pretend like I didn't have those, and it wasn't, days and weeks and months of more stress and anxiety and everything else. But I constantly kept asking myself, all right, look, versus getting stuck in magnifying, the problem. Because if you do that, you can kind of go down the rabbit hole of, oh no, why this? What was me? Why they're doing this? When does the vaccine come? Like all this other shit that's not really helping you move forward, rather than like, okay, what do we do here? How can we make this better? How do we deliver this product or service to our clients? And what's our mission still? Okay, cool. How do we deliver the mission now that we can't do this, right? You ask yourself these questions, and you find answers to how to continue to move forward. Maybe not optimally, but you just keep moving forward. So that's been a really big thing for me, and it's always kind of a big thing for me when I get faced with obstacles. Now, real quick thing that I want to mention here. All right, I forgot who I was talking to about this, but there's people when they face like really, really big adversity. Some people will go like and bury their emotions and just go to work. Okay. I used to be that guy. That's not the healthiest thing in the world, right? Because it's like, if you bury your emotions and all that, like they're gonna pop. It's kind of like when you're in water and you got those little blow up balls, mm-hmm. You try to push those suckers down. What do?
Pop right back up.
Pop right back up explosively. The more you push them down, the more they pop up. So to me, it's like, if you have all these emotions that some people might consider negative emotions, you bury them, with, I don't know, alcohol and overworking, and it could be drugs. It could be training too much. There's a lot of sedation, food, there's a lot of sedation techniques. You're just pushing that ball under the water, and the more you push it, it's going to pop up, and it's going to pop up and smack you in the face. Right. So that doesn't completely work. Okay. The other side is what I mentioned earlier, which is like constant rumination, right? Being in your head, overthinking stuff, and doing that will get you zapped out and disconnected from life. It'll get you, you lose your power. You feel like you don't have control. You don't have agency. So those are like two different kind of like mm-hmm. sides of the pendulum, like the extremes, right?
Right.
I feel that when shit happens, you got to feel what you feel. You got to feel your emotions. And then once you do, right, you acknowledge them, you accept them. You're like, hey, listen, this is a challenging time. I'm going to have some roller coaster stuff going on, and that's okay. And then go, okay, what are we going to do here? Right. And then you get to work. Right. So it's finding that balance of like not burying your emotion, but not also like getting pulled down into this constant stream of emotion and letting that control your actions. So, I think COVID or anything else that pops up in life, one of my closest friends and business partner in the world, a couple of weeks ago, just lost his dad, like unexpectedly, completely unexpectedly. And man, honestly, it was very tough for me. I mean, one, because I love his dad. Two, because his dad's my best friend in the world. It's like family. And, just seeing him go through that, and like, man, I've had a lot of loss in my life. And, we were going through, I've been communicating through this whole time. And it's like, one day is like this emotion, he's all in, and then another day it's like, just grief, sadness, anger. And, I'm like, man, just feel everything. Just feel it. Like, don't try to not feel it, because you can avoid feeling it by doing what? Well, shit, I'm gonna get hammered. I'm gonna, go pop a pill. I'm gonna, just eat food and watch TV all day long. You know what I mean? Like, there's a ton of ways to like avoid it. But guess what? You think that if you do that, it's not going to affect you? Of course it is. It's gonna crush. But if you feel it, you let it come through you, right? Like, and it helps you honestly improve. And grief is it's a motherfucker, right? It's a roller coaster, and it's not like it doesn't end. You just work through it and deal with it, and kind of It helps you chisel you to make you a better person if you use it the right way. So that, I'm kind of thinking, okay, this is a principle that I believe when it comes to adversity and obstacles. So, fill in the blank. COVID, challenging time for a small business, challenging time for mental health, lost jobs, like, fill in the blank. There's principles to overcoming hard times, you know what I mean? So whether it's this or something else.
Right. Yeah, I think that's so important too, to acknowledge it, but don't be controlled by it. You have to feel your emotions, be honest with yourself, be honest with other people, express how you're really feeling. But you can't let that shit control you either into making poor decisions or irrational decisions, right? You have to, but it is so important to be aware that they're there, because I think that's something that a lot of people do. Forget, not even just business owners. I think that's people in general, right? They just pretend, okay, it's, that doesn't bother me. It's not there. I'm not scared. I'm not this. I'm not that. So they might deal with it by drinking their problems away, or they might deal with it by overtraining. I think that's, like you said, that's one of the common things that people don't look at, things like that. Like, okay, you might be over exercising to try to handle this shit that's on your mind. And the reality is there's a real big problem here. There's an elephant in the room that is just not being addressed.
Absolutely. And like, I'll actually I'll give examples from my life. I don't want to like kind of throw it on anybody else, but for me, it's all, I've been, a workaholic. I love training. For me is, I think it's definitely therapy, but we know, like, too much of anything,
Right.
offsets the balance. Right. And so for like challenging times in my life, it was like, let's take what was a really challenging time in my life was divorce. And it was, a clusterfuck that I caused, first of all. So let me not like pretend like it was my decisions and choices that created the problems. And my go-to was like hustle, work really, really hard, train even more, and or go to Vegas, use too much drugs, and kind of escape reality, right? All those three in that order, to be honest with you, like training, work, and frequently going to party and kind of just like get away from it, right?
Right.
And I learned a lot of things the hard way, and which is why I can talk about those things, right? But because it's so uncomfortable, sometimes for me it was very uncomfortable to sit with my actions. It was uncomfortable to sit with being disloyal, the cheating, and I don't want to say I like to talk about these things today, but I like to share these things to shine a light for people that have been through, very challenging times. And look, for me, when I was in 91, I was 11 years old, 92 actually. So, I lived in a country that went through a war, and thankfully Slovenia didn't see the worst of that, like Croatia and Bosnia did. But I bring that up because like divorce was harder for me than that, for instance, right? It's just this emotional turmoil. Like, I was questioning my own, like, oh, I have these values, but I broke all these values. Who am I? And that was this internal struggle, and I try to escape it by working too much, training too much, and going and partying too much and drinking this, that, the other, right? Like, and I hit a wall. I hit a wall, and the wall for me was actually that I was doing well in business and finances, right? And I remember waking up one day, and and my whole mindset, I grew up in socialism, communism, so it was like, when I make it financially and like I can take care of my family and me, and then life will be good. It's honestly part of the reason, cause of what fucked up my marriage too. But it was, I got to this place where I could look at it, go like, wow, like, on paper, I guess I'm successful, and I drive this car, and I feel secure with money, and I felt empty. I was just, miserable. I remember the day I woke up and I was just like, is this what it is? Holy shit, I feel horrible, depressed, and that was like the catalyst for me also going, okay, I need help, and from therapy, and later on the Wake Up Warrior program, and I went, okay, that was actually massive for me, for men, going like, I need help. Bro, that's one of the most challenging, difficult things, courageous things that I think that people can do, especially if, you grew up blue collar, tough, like going through, like I said, socialism, communism, everything, right? Like, don't cry, don't do this shit, don't do, and it's like, I had to kind of be broken to go like, all right, look, I gotta figure this out, and I can't figure it out by myself. I need some help here, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that led me on a journey of like, hey, why are we so irrational? Why do we do the things that we do that are stupid? Why don't we fall in line with our values? Debbie Ford has a great book called Why Good People Do Bad Things. And I did her program, and I just dove into the like psychology, neurology, like, and our emotions and everything to better understand it, which dramatically also helped me become a better coach, but helped me deal with I would say with my guilt and shame. There's a lot of that shit. And it's the best thing that could ever happen, but it was very, very challenging to go through that. But the reason I bring these examples up, because it's like, this is how they showed up in my life, right? And I'm sure, look, they still sneak in. I'm certainly not perfect, but some of the things that, for instance, I'll do that sometimes, I'll share with our members and stuff. And they're like, damn, like, you cry, Luka? And it's like, I'm a fucking movie crier like no one else. But like, I feel like if I have all this emotional constipation, that's what I'd call it, emotional constipation. Like, I don't know how it shows up for you or anybody's listening. For me, I get a lump in my throat and it's just there, right? It's just like, I'm like, gosh. And now I'm aware of it, because whether that's, a lot of stuff going on, like people close to me, going through stuff, my own challenges, like I'll put on a movie that I know will make me cry. Real talk. Like I'll watch the movie and I'll get it out, you know what I mean? Rather than like burying it. And like, that's like one small kind of, you call it strategy, but I'm just dealing with emotions. I'm feeling what I'm feeling. I'm letting it out. And then afterwards, I feel a ton better. I feel like I worked through it, right? And I know, like, listen, I don't give a shit what you think, because I talked, when I share this story, a lot of people are like, damn, man, me too. But, and because it's real, like we all feel all these emotions, it's just that some people have learned to bury them. And it's almost like Debbie Ford talks about it in a sense of like when you lie, and these things will kind of come together, right? If you lie, you have some anxiety usually, right? It might become so normal that you feel like it's a normal thing. But if I gave you, right, if I give you, Chris, an orange, and I said, listen, bro, like, take this orange, but man, don't let anybody see that you got this fucking orange, right? You'd be like, okay. And then you put it in your pocket, but damn, it's an orange, like it's gonna stick out. All right, so you put it behind your back and okay, cool. But you actually have a certain level of anxiety knowing that you don't want anybody to find out about the orange that you have, right? Mm-hmm. Okay, that's like what lies are like. Okay, that's what burying emotions and hiding things, right? Go like, okay. So what if now I give you a lot of oranges? Well, shit. Now all of a sudden it's like all you're thinking about is like people not seeing your oranges. Mm-hmm. So you're whole, like, and it's subconscious too. It's like you're constantly stressed out. You're constantly a high alert. You know what I mean? Like you can't relax. You can't be yourself. You can't focus on the things that are important because you're focusing about the fucking oranges all the time, right? This is the equivalent of like if you're hiding things from others and yourself, right? And it's like, man, you got to stop carrying these fucking oranges around. You got to allow yourself to work through emotions and stuff. And like, man, this conversation 10 years ago would be like, what are you talking about?
Right.
Let's go,
right.
But that's bullshit. It really, really is bullshit. I tried the other way, right? And it's like, and it doesn't work. It works until it doesn't work. When it doesn't work anymore, you're like, you basically are stuck and go like, either something drastically wrong with me, or I've just been operating, the wrong way. And it's just that it's so interesting because if I talked to Dr. Jay Tate about this. It's like, man, think about like a cut, if you cut yourself in the kitchen or something like that, like what is the process of, that injury? What usually happens, right? First, you go, you look at the injury, mm-hmm. and then you have some shock, like, oh shit, right? And then you go and have somebody help you with it. You heal it, you work on it, you bandage it, right? And you let it heal. Okay, so take an emotional injury, but like, what do? It's like, it's the equivalent of getting cut and go like, oh shit.
Right.
I'm not bleeding. haha, motherfuckers, like, but it's like, but you're bleeding
That
out,
doesn't
right?
exist,
You're
right?
bleeding out, but it's like you're pretending it's not there. You're burying it. You don't want to show it to other people. And just because it's a physical scar, and it's like it's more tangible, and you're like, oh, I get like emotional stuff. It can be just as damaging, if not more, right? But we bury it, and like that's how and you can. There's a ton of interesting and very fascinating works. The Unspoken Voice, the book, polyvagal theory, and it talks about all this, like trauma stored in the body, right? Like, which is why you get you've probably seen this, pro athletes, like I've seen it here at the gym, happening. I've had it happen to myself where somebody's working on you, like soft tissue work or kneeling or stuff like that. I've seen like high level pro athletes, do breathing drills and do soft tissue work and just start uncontrollably crying.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Freaking out because they're like, they don't know what's going on. Well, that's that, like basically that's trauma stored in the body, right? It just, you got to understand it goes both ways. Like the physical affects the emotional, the mental affects the emotional, physical, right? That's why when you're stressed out, your tone, your breathing changes, your muscles tone changes, right? It's all interconnected. And the reason I like to bring this up, because for me, a lot of my life, it's like, sport, pro athlete, training, muscle, performance, force. And you'd never kind of go like, okay, how does you kind of understand how the mental plays into it, but the emotional side, you kind of go like, yeah, like, what does that have to do with anything, right? And when you understand it's all so interrelated, man, like it opens up this world of curiosity. And I kind of went down that rabbit hole, understanding like, how do all these things work together so that we can be, essentially better humans,
Yeah. What's coming to my mind here too is in my life, having drug addiction in my family. My brother has been addicted to drugs the last 16 years, in and out of rehab and whatnot. And growing up in that environment, there was so much turmoil. There's a lot of toxic shit going on in my house, fighting, my parents enabling and whatnot, and not agreeing. And then me not being heard, trying to speak my voice, right. And tell them, hey, like, this is what I think needs to happen. And just between that and all the, the stealing and the backstabbing and the fights and all this chaos that comes along with drug addiction, it led to me to drinking often. It led to me eating fast food all the time. I was super lazy. I had no drive. I had no purpose. My only purpose at the time, or what I felt was, and I didn't even realize this, because anytime that somebody asked me, like, how you doing? I'm fine. I'm fine. No, this doesn't bother me at all. Right. It doesn't bother me at all. I'm just mad. I'm just pissed off. Then, my, John Alvino, my cousin, he's obviously been a huge mentor and role model in my life. And he was like, dude, listen, I know you're saying that this doesn't bother you. You got to get the fuck to therapy. He's like, you have to talk to somebody about this, because I could see it. You're sleeping until 3:00 in the afternoon. You don't really know what you want to do with your life. You're lost. You're drinking. You got to get up and you got to get fucking rolling. So just go. Right. And then talking to the therapist, fortunately, this was when I was 18 or 19 at the time. Right. So I got in there at a young age, thankfully. And, she's like, you're upset. And, she's digging a little bit. And I'm like, no, listen, I'm not upset. I'm just mad. I'm just angry. And she's like, well, anger is a secondary emotion, right? It's secondary to fear, to pain, or being emotionally hurt, right? So physical pain or emotional pain. And that really made me think. And I'm like, oh shit. And instantaneously I start bawling, right? Tears start coming out. And I'm like, whew. And that's like the first time I'm crying in front of somebody. So I'm embarrassed, and I'm like, damn it. But it was such a realization for me, because I'm like, damn, I'm holding all this shit in. And this has been slowing me down on so many different levels of what the fuck do I want to do with my life? And where my focus was and what I was paying attention to, because all my attention was given to that, trying to convince my parents, trying to fight with my brother, trying to fight with drug dealers, sabotage shit. That's where all my focus and my direction was going. And I wasn't even aware of that, as crazy as that sounds. Like, I was like, no, this is just part of my life, right? Like, it was fucking normal. But that was such a realization for me. And to take this back to coaching, it was such a pivotal point of my life, because that's when I started to get so fired up about coaching and training other people, because I realized, man, people are fucking in pain, right? Just like I was really in pain, and I wasn't even aware of it. I think so many people are not aware of it. And I got so much more excited now, not just about the training, because that's how it started, right?
Yeah.
Just getting people stronger, bigger, like that's always the exciting part. But then over the years, as I've learned more about myself and as I've grown, I've realized how much more that fitness and even nutrition, we could say, is such a gateway to so many other positive changes, because that is also what has helped me with my transition. So that it really just brought that stuff up for me, man. So
Yeah,
I think
appreciate you
that's
sharing
so
that too.
important.
Because I mean, I think it's good for people to know, and I mean, people in general, I think for guys, this is a bigger problem, obviously, because we know the statistics, right? From suicide to mass murders, all these things, like it's men, right? Because they get so disconnected, and they're much less likely to talk to other men. They're much less likely to open up, right? So of course, when you get disconnected and you care less, then you do dumb shit. And a couple of things that you brought up that I actually wanted to like to kind of ping, that I wanted to address. And one of them is like therapy was one of the most, it was such a important thing for me, and definitely a breakthrough. And look, first of all, it's like I always want to say, like, I'm not a doctor, nor do I play one on TV, but but I am the geekiest mofo, and thankfully I've been fortunate enough to have some of the smartest people in the world in each of these areas, that I know are around me, that I can call, that can, and I study this stuff. But you got to be careful about, when I say going down a rabbit hole. So think about like right now, okay? Let's say, you want to sit down with me and we want to we want to overcome something. And I start asking you about your problems, and the things that are troubling you. And we keep going and 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 keep going. It's like, all right, cool, therapy session's over. Have a good day, Chris. Like, what do we do? Like and this is actually, science has now shown, like, we're reinforcing neurologically these feelings, emotions, repetitive thoughts. Now, do you want to address it? Do you want to bring it to light? Dax Moy was the first person. He's like, look, shine a light on your fears, right? Now, sometimes when you shine a light on them, you'll realize they're not even real. Sometimes they're real, but you'll know how to deal with them because you see them, right? And so I'm a big fan of like, hey, reveal, be aware, right? Awareness precedes change. It's like you said, you weren't even aware. Step one is be aware. I see what's going on. Like, if you don't know what you don't know, you can't do anything about it. But beyond that, you got to start either reframing things, right? Because we give things meaning. Like when we between the age of 5 and 9, I think it's like we have 400 traumatic events. Now, what we consider traumatic, right? Those things, you might say it to somebody, be like, that's not traumatic. But at that point in time, it is. I don't like at a certain, I don't know, if you're a 15-year-old and your girl leaves you, like, it's the worst thing in the world, right? I mean, it's like right. Your world is over. Yeah, it's done. That's it. There's nothing to live for, right? But so you got to think about that. You have all these traumatic events, and that's where neuroplasticity is at its highest. Like, we remember stuff the most, right? It's like it gets embedded in our amygdala. And so now, if you think about that, it really, like, we have these things that like are a subconscious driver of ourselves. And so you have to reframe, like finding out like, hey, that thing, it doesn't mean what you think it means, right? No, your parents love you. That didn't mean that, right? And the thing is, like, so you either got to reframe situations. And then what I think is probably the most important part is start behaving in a way to build a new identity. That is the thing that shifts more than anything, and then you got James Clear talks about in Atomic Habits, but it's talked about almost everywhere, right? Like if I go and, let's take a sport that I was going to say ping pong, but I'm actually fucking great at ping pong. So take that back. But I don't know, lacrosse, right? I don't play lacrosse. I haven't played lacrosse much in my life. So if I play lacrosse tomorrow and you're like, yo, Luka, you're a lacrosse player? I'm like, no. I played one time. Right now, if I play lacrosse 3 times a week for the next year, and you ask me after a year, "Are you a lacrosse player?" I'm like, "Yeah, I'm a lacrosse player, son." Like, because I've done it enough to where it's become my identity, right? So if you are, somebody that works out for 6 weeks, 3 times a week, you're like, "Hey, are you a fit person?" Like, they probably gonna have a tough time saying yes, right? But if they do it for a year, they'll be like, yeah, actually health and fitness is part of who I am, right? It's very important to me because they've put enough votes, right? It's like every time you do something, you cast a vote for who you are, who you want to become. And so you've cast enough votes to be like, yep, that's me for sure. I mean, people shit, like, we live in a time right now where it's like, what are you? I'm a Republican. It's like fucking like political stuff, right? But it's like that shit's not as important as like the votes that you're casting for yourself, right? This is what I get like kind of fired up about is like people are arguing, spending so much time and energy deciding and convincing other people who to cast votes for. I'm like, hey, what did you cast votes for today? Did you open the door for the elderly lady? Hey, were you nice to people? Did you compliment people on something? Did you go and eat healthy food so you can fuel your body, feel, look, perform better? Did you train so you can be fucking like a weapon in life? You know what I mean? Did you, did you do something productive for your business to move it forward so that you can feed your team and employees and yourself and your family? Right? Cast votes, cast votes, cast votes, cast votes. But like we're here going like, who should fucking win on Love Island? You know what I mean? You're casting votes for that. Which are the shittier candidates should I vote for? You know what I'm saying? Like all these. I mean, obviously, I'm getting a little fired up here, but like that's the kicker is that like the way that our body and brain works is that when we do things over and over and over again, like we believe that is who we are, right? So I say it's not about what you do, it's about who you become, and who you become is like when I wake you up in the middle of the night, like you're gonna live these values, you're gonna do these things. An 8-week program is not who you become. It's a great start. It's a catalyst. I think it's great. I'm not against it, but it's part of the issue when we look at health and fitness, right? Like people go hardcore for 30 days, for 6 weeks, for 8 weeks, for even 12 weeks, then they fall off, then they start again, they fall off. And it's really hard to buy into an identity of something that you keep, you keep starting and stopping, And so when you look at these different things, and this brings me to the next point that I wanted to bring in to connect these dots is like, what you've done with TTS, like Vigor Ground, like in these, or Yo Grow Your Gym, or any things that we're involved in, I realized that like what I'm trying to do is build these environments that trigger behaviors that have tribes of people, right? That's like when you join that tribe, you want to, like, that's how we work, right? We want to adhere to the standard of the tribe, right? So if I go into, we've both been, in or run, masterminds, coaching programs, right? But I know that like even 13, 14 years ago when I started going to masterminds, and it was a massively, financial, like it was like, oh, how much money, right? But I was like, but I want to be around this tribe, you know what I mean? Like, because then you get into that tribe and everybody is performing, like you were performing here, they're performing here in certain areas of life, right?
Right.
Let's call it financial, right? And so now I'm like, I have to adhere to these standards here. So you work hard because our social brain is like, if I don't adhere to the standards of the tribe will expel me. What's more dangerous and unsafe for human beings other than to be expelled from their social tribe and circles? I mean, remember, our brains are, hundreds of thousands of years old. It's not like the last, whatever amount of the time you've been on Earth that you think that your brain is operating that way, right? So,
right.
So of course, like the best way, the fastest way to change behaviors is to put yourself in environments where those behaviors are the norm, that the behaviors that you want to do are the norm, right? You come to Vigor Ground and it's like, hey, people do dynamic warm-ups. Like if you come in and go like, I don't feel like doing a fucking warm-up, but there's 13 other people doing a dynamic warm-up, you're like, okay,
Right.
doing lizards, you know what I'm saying? Like, and it's like, damn, like Susan right there, 73, I'm 23. She's busting her ass and pushing the intensity. Fucking, I'm over here going like, trying to like, pretend like I'm working hard. Shit, maybe I need to. This is how it happens. And it doesn't happen like all in one go. It just chisels away at you. Bah, 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 bah. You keep showing up. That's why I got like, I think I got this from Dan John, but like when we do on our orientation, I said, guys, look, we have 3 main rules to success here at Vigor Ground. 3, okay? 1, show up. Just keep showing up. Like even if you don't finish the workout, even if you're not feeling great, just show up. Number 2, don't quit. Now, don't quit doesn't mean maybe one day you're going to quit the workout. I'm cool with that. If you feel unsafe, that's okay. But just don't quit coming. Just consistency, keep coming. And number 3, the one that most people like avoid, ask questions, ask for help. You know what I mean? Like, which is probably honestly sometimes is the hardest one for people, right? Because they don't want to feel embarrassed. Oh, I'm dumb. I'm asking a question on this, that, the other. But that's the thing. Like you go into that type of environment, you're just going to get better, right? You want to get better basketball and you've been playing the YMCA? Okay, great. Go to a D1 school and practice with them for 3 months. You know, you'll be frustrated at first, but then guess what? Your game's going to get better and better and better and better and better.
Raise your standards.
Raise your standards. Absolutely. Like raise your game, raise your standards. And it's going to, like, the environment's going to take you along for the ride. Now, so, or, you know, I mean, one of two things happen, right? You go like, oh my God, everybody here's, you know, so much better than me. Like, that's why you got to get out of your head and go like, hey, this isn't, like, everybody's so much better than me, right? That can mean two things. Oh no, I don't belong here. Or absolutely I belong here, man. Look at, like, man, it's gonna be hard, but I'm gonna get so much better, right? You can choose either of those options. But that's why environments are so important. And even though, you know, we talk about the gym environment, and, you know, I've tried to make every part of it, and I continue to try to make every part of it something that helps people. Like, I just bought a book for everybody. I mean, like, I'll just give books to people all the fucking time.
Mm-hmm.
But like, if any friend like Sean Stevenson's just coming out with a Eat Smarter book, you know, we haven't got him yet, but like, I bought one for every member. You know, I bought a Changemaker book for every member. I bought and every new person gets an Atomic Habits book. Like, I mean, right? Because guess what they see and what they hear, that's part of environment. So I'm going to start feeding their brain with stuff, right? At the end of every workout, I tell a little story. Just like I told some stories today, I'm going to tell a story with the point that's going to make them think, that's going to emotionally connect to something that matters to them right now. Hey, I do it one time. Sometimes people at the beginning are like, the fuck? Like, this guy's telling stories and stuff. Like, what does he think he is, Tony Robbins? But then it's like, you stay for a year, and now it's like 250 times, like, you've heard a story. And then once you started letting go a little bit, and like, man, sometimes people cry at the end of team training sessions because it hits them. Because I said something and it hits them, right? And it's like, you just hold space. That's fine. Hey, man, sometimes I've cried telling fucking stories. You know what I mean? But guess what? I tell them, guys, listen, if you don't want to get brainwashed for greatness, don't be here. But I'm going to keep brainwashing you towards greatness. I'm going to brainwash you to where you believe you can do fucking anything towards excellence. So, you know, it's like, hey, if you don't want that, Vigor's not the place for you. But I don't care where you're starting. I don't care. I don't care if you are at the beginner stage. It doesn't matter. All I care about is that you keep showing up, you don't quit, you ask questions, you keep getting better. You know what I mean? And it's like, environment's everything. What you hear, what you see, what you feel, taste, smell, sound, every fucking thing. So how can we, you know, why is there quotes everywhere and inspirational, you know, posters and wallpaper and murals in the gym? You know what I mean? Like, because it's like every part of it, when a person comes in, I want them to feel like they can do anything. That environment is, I would say, driving them forward, making them, you know, and that's why sometimes it's actually a challenge when people leave the gym. You know, it's like they go into what I call the civilian world. You know what I mean? Like, and you got to deal with sometimes, you know, like negativity and all this other shit, and people telling you can't do stuff and treating you like crap. And, you know, and like, look, we're not perfect. I'm not perfect. But I keep that awareness that, like, this is my mission in life, you know, and it's like, how can I sneak stuff in? Hey, I got this dope, like, you know how you said this the other day, I got this cool book for you. I think you really like it. Man, now that means if that person's reading that book for 30 minutes a day, I'm influencing another 30 minutes to their day to make them better, right? And if I shoot a video and they watch 10 minutes of that video 3 times a week, or a different video, bam, there's another 30 minutes I'm influencing, right? And persuading in a positive direction, right? And the thing is, like, one of the things I just tell people, man, start being aware of your environments. That's it. Like, hey, you're going to dinner, you notice that people are just talking shit for 90% of the time. Man, is that the environment you want to be in? It's fine. Like, look, venting is cool. I'm not that, you know, like, look, I vent sometimes. I get in the negative mind space sometimes, but I snap out of it quick. And honestly, most people around me, you know, if they're in a negative space, I'll flip them. If I'm in a negative space, they'll flip me, right? So, or are you in a space where people talk negative and everybody just adds fuel to the fire? And it's like just hours of people talking shit about other people, about events, but not about how to get better, not about exciting stuff, not about teaching each other stuff, learning, making each other laugh, making, you know, having a good fun time, right? Like, you got to start assessing that. And that's a tough reality check sometimes, because people, man, I've had clients come back like, man, like, I've like, this week I've been paying attention, and I realized that a lot of people around me, like, they're not trying to get better. They're just trying to complain. They're just trying to, like, they're basically just, everybody's one-upping themselves on what's tougher, what's worse, what's this, what's that. But then I do have some friends that are really positive. Okay, cool, man. Like, you might want to start shifting that dial and spending more time with those people,
Mm-hmm.
and see how your day improves, see how your life improves, see how, hey, you watching 4 hours of TV, man, like switch it up for an hour and a half of reading a book. Like actually take this book and then let me know, and it's like, it doesn't happen overnight, but if you're committed to like going that environment, and that environment, is better for you and uplifting for you, and keep showing up, and like I ask myself the same thing.
And what's funny too, to bring this back to what you said a few minutes ago, awareness precedes change, right? People may not have even been aware of how negative their environment or their inner circle was until they stepped into your facility, or they've been around guys like you or whoever, that all of a sudden you start to see things with a different outlook. You start to see things in a different light. Like, oh man, maybe I am complaining a lot. Maybe I am talking shit about a lot of people. And maybe that's because, wow, every time now when I go to dinner with this group of friends, I realize that that's all they do. Because before I didn't realize that, because this was the norm. But now you raise the standard. Like you said, you joined a gym like Vigor, and now you're around these people who are uplifting you and supporting you and giving you words of encouragement and getting you a book that's going to help you with your problems, right? And most of the time, people don't have friends or groups like that. If you do, that's fantastic, of course, right? But for the most part, I think taking that step is what creates that awareness for you to do a little bit of self-reflection or an evaluation of your inner circle or the people that are around you. And then you could realize, okay, or you could learn, how do I change? How could I change this environment? How could I, or do I need to get out of this environment? Right.
It's what it is. Some of it is contrast. I think contrast really helps. Meaning, I was talking to Eric Cressy about this, about when he was powerlifting, right? And like I notice, I always revert to stories because I think stories are helpful, and us to learn, and they're real life. So it kind of shines a light on shit that's real. And so, he was powerlifting, and like to him, he was like, man, I'm training hard, right? And then he went to, I think, the South Side gym was one of the top powerlifting gyms at that point in time, and he was like, man, I realized that like what I thought was my 9 or 10 was actually a 6 or a 7, right? So the intensity of training. This is what people like. Look, I'll raise my hand. I'm a little bit, Chris may know that, like, I go hard in the paint, when it comes to training and stuff like that. And so people will be like, yo, man, like I go hard. And it's like, all right, cool. Well, we're gonna do some conditioning today. And people get buried though, and it's like, and it can be a good moment, because they're like, dude, I thought I worked hard, or I worked conditioned hard, right? But now you got contrast, right? Because you were in your space, your environment, and that was a 9 or a 10 for you. But now you got into another place, and it was like, shit, wow, I'm really at a 5 or a 6. Now you get to make a choice. You get to make a choice. It's like, man, that should be inspiring. I tell people, like, listen, man, don't get down on yourself. It's inspiring. Look at how much more, like, you got room to grow, right? And that happens everywhere, where, you go into a mastermind and you're like, damn, like, man, like these people are doing this, they're operating like that. And it can be a little bit, it can be stressful. You can get a little anxious around it. Now, if you're in the right environment, people will uplift you, right? They won't like walk all over you and be like, ha, look at you, right? You shitty little kid. Like, you don't know, it's like, they'll bring you up. They'll go like, hey, listen, do this. I'm gonna keep you accountable. Like, just do a little bit better. Like, do a little bit more. I'm gonna push you a little bit more, right? And because that's the other thing too. You want to make sure that like people aren't beating you down. Like, I would say, like John Gordon says, it's not tough love, but like love tough. Right? Show the love first. Be tough, but show the love first. You know what I mean? Tough love is like, sometimes when you're tough, people can't feel the love, and then they're like, fuck this, Right. So I think it's better to love tough than to show tough love. But like, you feel like somebody's challenging you to get better, and that contrast is challenging, man. I was just telling a story we're in this 30-day accountability group in a BIS program, and like, I keep a basketball and basketball shoes in my car, and I've tried to start playing at least once a week again. But honestly, I keep it in there too. Like, if I ever have a moment, I can shoot around. But also, throughout the years, I always have these high school kids that will always talk smack, right? So a friend of mine, and this is like years ago. Honestly, it's probably 5 or 6 years ago. But I just remember this story. We were still at the other gym, previous gym, and There's two high school kids come in. They play for a school that was, it wasn't like the highest level school. It was like medium kind of level as far as basketball, the leagues that it was in. And they did well at that school. They're scoring, like they're kind of like more of the stars of the team. A friend of mine brings them in, like, yo, Luke used to play, used to play pro, used to play super high level. And it doesn't take long before they start talking shit, like, oh man, we'll punish you, like crush you, blah, blah, blah. Okay, all right. I said, all right, guys, well, look, across the park is Liberty Park. There's basketball courts. You know what I mean? I got a ball in my fucking car. And they're like, and then I started going like, all right, look, man, you guys want to make some money? Like what? I was like, look, I bet 500, 1-on-1. I'll bet. And then they start getting worried, right? Because it's like, well, man, why we got to bet? I said, well, you're going to crush me. It's easy money. Like, just take the money, right? Then they start thinking about it. Like, I don't know what's going on. Eventually I go like, all right, you know what? No money, let's play for pride. And like, I actually hadn't even played in a long time, but I destroyed them. Okay. Mm-hmm. Notice like my tone of voice changes because I remember this. And like, I destroyed them, right? But the thing is like afterwards I talked to them. I said, listen, guys, like right now, like you now have an opportunity. Like there's a reality check. And look, I was like 20 years of my life, ball was like I breathed, smelled, dreamt it. Like it was, I mean, I would dribble in my sleep, bro. Like, it was everything. And so, man, don't be too upset. Like I played on really high levels, and I said, one, your arrogance made you worse, right? Like you're arrogant, like you weren't humble and hardworking, you got arrogant, and that's part of like what got you crushed. Number two is like, hey, listen, man, like this is another level. Like I played at another level. Like you're not getting better because you think you're that good, right? Now you got contrast, right? You thought you were the shit and you just got smacked. What are you gonna do now? I said, look, you got an opportunity to realize, hey, what happened? I could bully you whenever I wanted to. Maybe you should do some strength training. Like, how am I like 10 years older than you, but I still get to step on you? Okay. I pump fake you 10 times. Like you can learn a lot of things here, right? And get better and better and better and better. Your choice. But that's the reality check. Awareness, assessment precedes awareness. Awareness precedes change. Assessment was play me one-on-one. I was like, look, guys, like I went to Nike Battlegrounds finals like twice. That's the top one-on-one players in the country. You know what I mean? And it's like, I wasn't there by fluke because I had to beat like 7-8 people to get to the finals. You know what I mean? So I was like, don't feel bad about it, get better. That's it. And it's weird because like over the years, it's like a long story, but when the kids took that to heart, got better, got a scholarship at a decent school. I'm not saying that was the pivotal moment, but maybe, I don't know, right? And the other one didn't, right? Like, and kind of went a different direction. And it's like, and look, it is what it is, but like we are presented on a daily and weekly basis and a monthly basis with these contrasts, right? And then we get opportunities. I notice I say opportunities. You get an opportunity to get better. In your relationship, you get triggered and shit, right? Like, and it's like opportunity for you to get better. Maybe to become a better communicator. Maybe to, I don't know, like be better at empathy, be better at listening, be better at holding space. Like all these opportunities, right? And if you just whisk them away because you're like, it's not me, it's somebody else. You're constantly getting, you're losing opportunities to improve. So something that feels like this huge resistance and this obstacle, and to go back to the Stoics, which I absolutely love, and Ryan Holiday, right? The obstacle is the way. The impediment to the way is the way, right? Like, and many times that is true, right? Sometimes the obstacle is like, get rid of this shit. You know what I mean? Get away from this person, get rid of this shit, cut this off. Many times it's like, you got to look in the mirror and be like, hey, how can I improve, right? And stop pointing fingers at other people. I think that, when you start going like pointing fingers, man, like you take all the power away from yourself, because essentially what you're saying is somebody else controls like my destiny. Somebody else controls, what I do. And now I have to wait for them to do something for my life to change, right? That's the exact opposite of agency. You know what I mean? Like, you want something to get better? Hey, go into a different group of people, with a group of people, different environment, hire a coach, be part of a team, go, you know what I mean? Go to those. And the thing is, we have way more control over our environments than we believe. Now, somebody like, well, but I'm at work and do it. Okay, cool. But listen, can you walk out and not go to the cafe and go to a healthy cafe down the street that has like way better options? So all your options are better than the shit you were doing. Can you not be by the cooler spending 30 minutes talking to your, coworkers that are all talking smack, and maybe find that one coworker that's reading a book and go like, hey, you mind if I sit next to you on this park bench to read a book? Can you, like, I mean, right? Like, do you have a gym that you can go to for lunch and do 20-minute workout? Right? I mean, I can go on and on and on. Like, you choose the environment. Some things you can't. Sure, I agree with that. But it's like, why focus on the things that you can't change, and why not focus on the environments that you can, the people you surround yourself with, what you read, what you hear, what you see, where you go, right? Like, all of those things that you can control. And it's like, we choose we shape our environments, and then our environments shape us. And same thing with tools. We shape our tools, and then the tools shape us, right? But it's our choice. And the thing that's not our choice, why worry about it?
Right. And circumstances are going to present different opportunities, right? So you're going to have whatever is bad in your life, or whatever circumstances aren't the best in your life, you're still going to be presented with some type of chance, some type of opportunity to grow, to learn, to get better. But it all depends on how you view it. Because if you just have that poor me attitude, then you're never going to grow and get better. Because look, like I look at this all the time. Like I would never wish that my brother was wrapped up in drugs and that we had these family problems and whatnot. But it's led me down this path in my life to help so many fucking other people, right? And what I'm doing, I'm so passionate about, and I love training people and coaching and building this business. It's what I love to do. And because of that, there's been so much positive change in the lives of other people, right? Now, I could easily say, man, I just wish things were different, but they're not. They're not different. This is how it was. And because of that, it presented me with this opportunity. So I think that there's always, not to talk about glass half full, glass half empty, whatever, but just to look deeper into what opportunities might be right in front of me, right? How can I get better? How can I improve? Rather than saying, oh man, this happened to me. Shit, well, what could I do? Because there's nobody that goes through life unscathed, right? Like we're going to take our bumps and bruises, but how do we respond to these different events? How do we respond? How could we get better? What could we learn? I think taking that time and have some self-reflection, whether it's going to speak to a therapist, whether it's just sitting down and journaling, but I think that is so important to do, so you could really dig and learn and uncover certain areas. How can I get better? If you continue to ask yourself that question, then you could really make progress in this life.
You make a great point, because it's like, it brings me to, that's why I quickly looked at a note, but as the hero's journey, Joseph Campbell, right? Like, Hero with a Thousand Faces, Hero's Journey. I think everybody should read that. But why are we attracted to, like, almost every superhero movie ever made? Honestly, almost every movie has a same, and that's what Joseph Campbell also recognized and realized. It was that it had this hero's journey path, right? Where it's like, at first, you discover a hero is a pretty normal person, and then something happens, right? Something dramatic happens that changes and alters his life. And then there's a call to adventure, right? I mean, look, Star Wars, Lord of the Rings, you name it. Like, cover, like, every one of the movies covers that path, right? And the reason, and we are attracted to this, okay? Like, do you, like, when you go see a superhero movie, you fucking know what's gonna happen? Like, you know what I mean? Like, you kind of, I mean, you don't, but you know the big picture stuff, but you don't know how it's gonna, all happen more in detail and tactical and this, that, the other, right? But I'll go watch it over and over and over again. And like, I can't get enough. Like, if Marvel made a movie every 3 days, I'd be fucking very happy, right? Like, we get drawn to these things because it gives us, I mean, honestly, some of it is like, it gives you that feeling of hope, of overcoming your own challenges, your own obstacles, right? There's your own call to adventure. And we live that life, right? And it's like, unfortunately, many people live that life, I call the life of quiet desperation, right? It's like, you're holding back because you're afraid of everything, right? But remember, in the hero's journey, there's always something tragic and dramatic and traumatic that happens, and then there's a call to action, right? There's a call to adventure. And it's the reason why we'll keep going to see these movies, because we see ourselves in these stories, right? So is there a fucking like hero if there is no tragic event? No. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like I love this analogy of that I don't even know who I had a conversation with this about, but I just really stuck with me. And it was like, people are like, what's the meaning of life? I think the meaning of life is progress, it's expansion, but I look at, if you look at it as a video game, right? If life is a video game, right? Or if life is a game, like the goal is to be the best fucking player that you can be. You know what I mean? And that encompasses a lot of stuff, right? Like, I mean, encompasses connections and relationships and experiences and being good at your skill sets and your craft, your health, your body, your finances, because that creates security and meaning if you do the work that you love to do. Okay, well, if I give you a fucking game and I'm like, listen, bro, like, all right, here's the controller, all right, here you go. Okay, all you gotta do is push forward and the green button. And bro, like, you'll get through the game. Like, every level you'll just fucking go through it, right? You'd be like, dude, like, why the fuck would I want to play this game? This is the most boring game in the world, right? Right. No call to act, like no obstacles. You're like, well, where's the challenge at? Where's the fucking bosses? Like, where do I need to actually it's like put my feet down and grind and grit? You know what I mean? Like, you don't want to play that game. But yet, in our real life, now I said, like, if I believe that life is a game, it's think of it as video game. Okay, but in real life, you get to the boss, you get to the challenge, and like, yo, fuck this. Let me go back and like just run through the game. Let me get an easy game, right? So I like this analogy because hopefully it creates a different perception that the reason why you like the game, because there is the challenge. Mm-hmm. When the boss kills you, you're like, fuck that, I'm gonna come back, do it again, and then 17th time, you beat the boss, and then you get to the next level and you get a little bazooka or a heart or whatever fucking game you're playing, or another life, or you become a bigger Mario Brothers, you know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. And like, and you work, and then you get to the next boss and the next boss. And the thing about life is that there's just unlimited levels, right? And you can enjoy this journey and the obstacles and the call to adventure, and it keeps happening, right? Like, look back in my life and I'm like, man, shit show happened here, then it happened here, then it happened here. This wasn't my fault. But there's a constant like obstacle. There's tragedy. There's trauma. It's a movie. It's a game. You know what I mean? Like, and we just have to become the best at it, which means that you have to be courageous enough to take these steps and step into, like, right? No. Here's the thing: call to adventure. You can say yay or nay. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. But I'll tell you what: very few people regret saying yes. Right? Majority of people on their deathbed regret saying no. Man, I wish I would have done that. Mm-hmm. I wish I would have done. That's why today, me and you, we can look back and go like and talk about stuff that honestly would be cringeworthy for me to talk about, right? Mm-hmm. And I didn't even bring up. I've had also a long. Let's just say that I spent a decade essentially, in some form of organized crime, selling drugs and stuff that I'm not like saying it because I'm proud of it, but it was part of my journey. It was part of my hero's journey. It was the reason. It was the decision that I came to America to play basketball, to leave some stuff that was not good, that was taking me down really wrong path, right? And we can talk about the war and the drugs, and we can talk about our own problems that we've had with whether it was alcohol and partying and this and that and divorce and cheating, like, right? But these are all obstacles. Now, sometimes self-created. COVID, not self-created, right? But the point of it being either way is a call to action. There's trauma, there's tragedy, there's mistakes that we made. And then you get an opportunity to go on this journey and make them better and come out a hero. And then it repeats itself, And that's why I think it's also important to study. It's important to study things like Joseph Campbell's work, because you go like, oh, wow. Like, you can connect it to your own life and going like, hey, this call to adventure, I didn't take it. Fucking next time I better take that shit, like, because we only have so long. And I keep getting reminded that through my own life, through many of the people that I love that have passed away, a lot sooner than we believe that they should have, right? Mm-hmm. And it's like, hey, how much time do you have, man? Like, you know what I mean? Memento mori, remember your mortality. Like, it's you think you got tomorrow and next week and whatever, but maybe you don't, so you got to live with a little more gusto And this stuff that I'm talking about, right? If you look at your if you look at your life as a game, as a video game, and being the best damn player possible, you got to stop staying at level one because you're killing everybody and feeling great about it. You know what I mean? Because that to me is the life of quiet desperation right there, rather than like going like, oh man, I'm about to go to level 2 and get smacked. Right. Boy, oh boy, that's going to be like, it's going to be meaningful. At the beginning, it's going to be hard, but it's going to be meaningful. It's going to make me better. And if many people that you talk to that, like I mentioned Tony Robbins, it's not like he's the end all be all, but like, look, he's done pretty good for himself. He's got some smart things to say. Mm-hmm. And I agree. Like, Garrett said the same thing. Like, just, I would say, read a lot of stoicism or personal development books, right? Like, we are unfulfilled if we don't grow. Now, growth doesn't necessarily mean like make more money. It can mean a lot of things. Being a better parent, being a better friend, being healthier, having more meaning in the work that you do, right? Yeah, it might be better finances, might be better connection to, God, Buddha, spirituality, whatever it is that you believe in, right? All of those things are growth, right? But the thing is, you stop growing, I'll give you 10 mil, but then just stop improving and tell me how you feel in 2-3 years, right? Like, you're not going to feel fulfilled. You're not going to feel happy. It is just part of what drives us, period. So I think that, if you can get something out of this, right? Like, hopefully there's a poke that you're like, holy shit, like I'm getting these calls to adventure left and right. And sometimes they're being disguised as these bad things, right? These obstacles, these hard fucking things. But hey, maybe like a call to adventure is like, yeah, get out of that relationship. Or maybe it's like, hey, commit all into that relationship. Or maybe it's like, hey, take that next step into the business. Or maybe it's like, hey, get more committed to where you're already at, but you're just being mediocre and not going all in. Could mean a lot of things, but usually the uncomfortable thing is the right thing. It's the right thing. What I mean? Like, because there's easy, difficult, and difficult. And I know you've been around a lot of fighters. My hobby is martial arts. Have been for a long time. I box now, like, but I've done jiu-jitsu, kickboxing, Muay Thai, MMA, you name it, right? Like, and you talked to, like, for instance, for a fighter, getting in the cage is difficult, but once they've done it like 50 times, it becomes easy difficult. Like, for me and you, a hard workout, it's difficult, but it's easy difficult. Yeah. Now, what's difficult? Shit. Sometimes saying no for me is difficult. Hey, Luka, will you help me out with this? I want to help people. No is difficult, yeah. Right? Taking more of a break for Luka is difficult, right? Because it's an easy difficult to work harder than everybody. See what I mean? Mm-hmm. But you tell me, if I give you a shovel and go like here's this concrete, I want you to fucking like dig and make a 20-foot hole. Like, here's the thing, that shit's gonna be hard. But are you going anywhere? No, it's just some hard shit. Like, right? Difficult is the hard things that will actually move your life forward. Right? And, for me, it's like being a workaholic a lot. I connected outworking everybody to like that's how you get ahead. And I think there are times in life when that is true. But then there's a certain part in time where you go like, okay, well, I got to work smarter. Right? And you run out of hours. That's the other thing too, right? Mm-hmm. You run out of hours and stuff. And, you can become 10 times, 20 times, 30 times more productive, which I've definitely done. And there's still a ton of room to grow. And so difficult for me is like, how do I, instead of doing 14 hours or 15 hours, do more in 9 and 8, right? Like, that's difficult. Mm-hmm. Whereas like, okay, going from 14 to 16, honestly, for me, I've done that before. That's easy, difficult. Right. So you got to start asking yourself, in your life, what hard things are you doing that are not moving you anywhere? Oh, you're doing 2 cardios a day and you're not like losing weight. You know what I mean? Maybe you should just lift weights 3 days a week and improve your nutrition. Difficult. You know what I mean? Like, hey, you're doing all this hustling at the business and like you're getting 1 lead a month. Okay, great. Well, why don't you double down and see the 80-20 and like, the stuff that's already working, why don't you quadruple down on that and then do like a half of the work that you've been doing, but actually get 5 times the amount of leads, right? I mean, like, these are things that like we help people do. It's not like sometimes magical trickery, like here's this tactical thing that will change your whole business around. No, it's like detective work, finding out where are you doing easy, difficult shit that's not taking you anywhere. You know what I mean? Right. And then keeping you accountable to do difficult stuff so that you are like getting momentum and moving the wheels of your business and your life. I mean, it's irrelevant. These are, like I said, these are principles of operating. This is not, you can fill in the blank of what you want to improve. Right. Relationship, spirituality, finances, business, leadership, and you name it. Right. So, because I love principles, man. Like, it's like Berardi says, a lot of times what people do is they put a microscope and look at the fine tuning tactical stuff. Right. But he says, man, the people that really get it, what they do is they squint, right? They squint and they look and they go like, what's the big picture thing here, right? What do all these successful things have in common? What's the principle? Because once you have the principles, like then you can go deeper, and there's a lot of tactical strategic shit that you can attach to that, right? But too many people learn tactics, they don't understand principles. And like I said, to life also, right? And then they get stuck. It's like, oh shit, well, what other tactics should I use? Right? Where it's like, look at stuff through a principle-based system. I mean, listen, like we're geeky about strength training, right? There's 3 things that like grow muscle: mechanical tension, like then you got I would say stress, eccentric load, right? And then you have metabolic stress. Or should I say just second one is volume, essentially, right? But like those are the principles. Okay, then you go deeper and there's some more principles, and then you can kind of start picking and choosing exercises, reps, methods, stuff like that. But if you don't understand the principles of it, and you're just doing like random shit, you know what I mean? Like,
right.
So
and to tie this back to coaching too, because now you coach a lot of coaches, right? A lot of gym owners, a lot of trainers and whatnot. What are some of the things, because there's a lot of coaches and trainers that listen to the show, what are some of the things that you see like, okay, these are common mistakes. These are the things that maybe this is the easy difficult that they're focusing on. It's not really moving the needle. Like, what are some of those key things that you see as a common theme?
The first one that comes to mind is I'll definitely swing the pendulum here, because that's what I see. I've seen both worlds. I'm sure you have too. I think sometimes we live in a bubble. I've lived in a bubble. And what I mean by that is like, once again, I'm so grateful that, I've stood on the shoulders of giants, and I always try to give homage to the people that I've learned from, and so then the thing is, when you learn from the best of the best, right? Like how people go like, well, how are you becoming the best in certain areas? I'm like, well, I went all around the world and learned from the best, right? But the bubble ends up being like, oh, this is how everything is, right? This is what it's like everywhere. And that's not true. So that's why I'm going to give you a pendulum swing, right? Number one is like, I'll first go in our bubble. A lot of times you get coaches that study the shit out of the X's and O's, the vectors of force production, the Prolepin charts, the technical aspects of training, which I feel, first of all, they're super important. And like, you should be able, like, those are the buy-in. I think like you got to have those, right? Understanding like, should you be a coach and not know fucking anatomy? Like when I remember I went to Massage Envy one time, I was like, yo, you got to get my gastroc. And it's like, this lady starts massaging my lat. I'm like, oh shit, like, not a good thing here. And it's like, that's, it's a problem. You have to have this base quality understanding of the body. Kinesiology, anatomy, like, and then of course, like, understanding program design to a certain degree, right? Like, I always, call it the cook and the cookbook, and the cookbook and the chef analogy, right? Like at the beginning, hey, like learn from the best and like read their cookbook and create the recipe like they said, right? So you want to get good at building muscle, right? I mean, like learn from, back in the day, it was from the Frankels, the Ferrugias, who was, I learned from Pavel and kettlebells. I mean, the best of the best, like I would study them and learn from them, right? I learn the cookbook inside and out and make those recipes to the T. And at a certain point in time, like you get good enough and you become a chef, right? You make your own recipes, you understand the principles, right? Come back to principles. You do that. Now in the industry, that pendulum there is like the people that study the shit out of that, right? And they can tell you every muscle where it attaches and the origins and everything else, right? Muscle type fibers, which rep ranges are best for this, that, the other, great. But their soft skills are absolute shit, right? They don't believe, like for instance, they don't really work on communication skills, on active listening, on being great presenters, or being great storytellers. Like I have probably, I'm not gonna say every, but I'm shit you not, if I haven't read 85% of books that are like written about storytelling, I mean, I see a new book on storytelling, I'm reading it, right? And I'm constantly taking 4x6 card notes of stories that I want to tell. I mean, like seriously, I'm obsessed about these things because I understand that like communication is just as important. Matter of fact, and like you know me, man, like I'm a geek when it comes to training. Like all the studying of training, like I fucking geek out about it, and I've studied it just about all, right? But it was profound for me when Danny Meyer has been a huge influence on me, the restaurateur. He's the guy that, I mean, he has, I don't know how many James Beard restaurants. Union Square Cafe was the first one that was, big name in New York. But now, obviously, he's also the guy that owns, started Shake Shack, which we all probably know. But Danny Meyer is a genius. I think he's one of the greatest like restaurateurs, but also entrepreneurs. And he talks about something called the 51-49ers, a 51-49 rule, and 51 ers, right? And basically the whole concept of, and I promise I'll wrap all this together. Like if somebody's listening, I'm like, dude, this guy's off the chain, going all over the place. I promise I bring it all together. There's a point to it all, okay? But basically what it means is that like, if you're completely technical proficient at a skill set, so, in the restaurant business, it might be, carrying plates and doing this, that, the other, and knowing exactly where things go and whatever else, right? In fitness, it might be program design, technical proficiency of exercises, knowing how to coach those exercises, knowing how to program design for this, that, the other, knowing energy systems, knowing where muscles attach, knowing this, that, the other, nervous system, right? Right. If you are 100% technically proficient in that, which no one is, but let's say you are, you get 49 points out of 100. Okay. Another 51 is basically your soft skills, your emotional intelligence, being able to listen, being able to communicate, work ethic, teamwork, being a service-oriented individual, meaning that you're fulfilled by helping people, right? There's a specific type of person. And the thing is, if I get somebody that's a 51er and they're into fitness, I can fucking teach them 49, all of it. Through the things that I know, through taking them through different courses. We do more continuing ed than any other gym in this country. Like I got the 49. Man, I cannot teach the 51. Can't do it. Now, can I shift somebody more towards that? Yes. The culture can do that, but that takes time. Like changing of deep rooted values and stuff takes time. So, this is actually also a hiring thing. Find 59ers. I'm sorry, not 59ers, 51ers. Find 51ers and teach them 49, right? But if you get people that like are good on that side of the 49, but they don't have that 51, I promise you, man, they're not going to be the greatest coaches that can be, period. So that pendulum, so that's one of the problems, right? Like that I see is like, technically you're on point, but man, that world of social and emotional intelligence, right? Environment, like social, and then basically behavior changing, understanding those things. You got to dive in just as much, man, if not more, right? And so that's the one side. Then on the other side of the pendulum, right? On the other side of the pendulum is the energy people, right? Great energy, like great community, like they can keep your attention. They're great to connect. Everything else, like, man, it's like, yo, that guy runs the best fucking class. Woo, we crank the music, it's a fucking party. Like I'm about that. If you come to Vigor, like charity bootcamp, shit, like I'm Funk Master Flex, like, But the thing is, and that's great. You need that too, right? But they don't, like, man, they haven't studied anatomy. It's like somebody's pressing overhead, but they can't even get their shoulder to 180-degree flexion, right? Cuff getting destroyed, low back getting crushed. Good intentions, but they don't know what they don't know.
Right.
A lot of that too, right? It's like, well, fuck it. Training is just like, man, just get people in, get them moving, get them. That's some of it, but that's unethical, man. Listen, if you go to a doctor and you're like, listen, replace my kneecap or whatever, do this, that, the other. And the guy just doesn't actually even know where the fucking all the things are and clips the wrong thing. Bro, you're suing, right? Like you're losing your mind, right? But in fitness, and it's like, yeah, I mean, is it the same as surgery? No, but look, if somebody comes in 250 times in a year to your group class and every workout you're doing overhead presses and this person can't get overhead with body weight, because of what you are doing, because remember, you're the expert and you're prescribing that to them, you're going to fuck their shoulder or low back up or neck or something's going to go, right? Now, to me, number one rule in coaching is thou shalt do no harm, right? So we got these two different parts of the pendulum and you got to be like, where are you at? Now, to me, art, right, or jazz is the science and the art coming together, right? And like, it's the soft skills and the hard skills and this intangible where you're basically putting on a show, right? And I mean, I could talk about coaching honestly, like probably for a week fucking straight. Just like I'm so into it, right? But in that, like I said, there's a science and there's an art of coaching, right? And you got to dive into both of those sides. And you know, if I said something and you find yourself on one side of the pendulum, you get mad at me, man. Listen, that's just the mirror. That's just the mirror slapping your face, going like, look, you know, you got to work on going more the other way. Because at a certain point in time, and like I still study training and I love it and I'll continue to do it and I'll always get better at it. But I also think about like, what is the percentage of my knowledge that I use on a daily basis, right? And it's not like anywhere close to 100%,
right?
20% maybe, right? And then there's certain individuals, we get people with, you know, rods through their spines, you know, lumbar fusions, you know, multiple knee surgeries. I train a lot of pro guys now, NFL, Major League Baseball, UFC, like in and out, but like some of them have, you know, hey, I've had 5 knee surgeries, haven't played for 2 years, still on contract, got to crush this year. Okay, I'm going to use more of my knowledge here. For majority of people that we see, you know, if you're a very knowledgeable individual, you're going to use, you know, 20% of your technical skills. But guess what? Every fucking day, you're going to be using 80 to 100% of those, you know, those communication skills and the empathy and the learning and the body language and reading and right, like all of that. So think about that. You know what I mean? And this is what you see happening a lot is that, you know, even the high energy guys, like usually they have something that from, you know, nature and nurture that's made them that way. But are you studying it? You know, and I'm like, sometimes I have some things, you know, my life has built me up through my experiences to have certain qualities that help me coach. You know what I mean? Like, and to be honest, like I was telling this, you know, we're talking to Brett Bartholomew about this. Hey, listen, I moved a lot of my life, not just to different cities, but to different countries and continents. You know, I lived in London from when I was 7 to 11. Then I moved back to Slovenia right before the war started. So it was Yugoslavia, then London, then back to Slovenia. I was a foreigner in my own country, you know, and then I went to the US and I went to upstate New York. You know, it was hostile, junior college. You know what I mean? Like I went from hostile environments to hostile. Then I went to Southern Virginia. Then I went to Ukraine to play pro. Then, you know what I'm saying? Like, man, and the thing is what I got good at, you know, even as a young, like I said, 7, you know, I end up in London. My dad just drops me off at school. He's like, all right, son, I'll pick you up at 3:30. I'm like, bro, like all I know is like, my name is Luka and like, yes, fucking no, you know, and he drops me off at English school, right? Like, but what I learned to do was read people, body language, adapt to situations. Like I became a chameleon sometimes, you know, like who do I need to be right now to survive? You know what I mean? Like in certain environments, it was like, yo, if you're not a certain way, you're going to get beat up on. And like, I had to, you know, put myself in positions where like, all right, well, I'm not going to get fucked with. Like, I know what this guy's thinking and doing. Like, so I learned that, and that's helped me a ton in coaching. In the drug game, you don't want to mess up. Things can get you killed real quick, right? So it's like, that helped me. But then I started studying it so that I could understand it, so that I could put all the things into like constructs that I would be like, oh, here's what I'm doing that works. This is why. Okay, let me do more of it, right? It's like you learn, you apply, you reflect, you course correct, and you do it again and again and again, right? And so, you know, for some people that are maybe good at certain things, somebody's like, oh man, you got the thing, you know, like you're really good at this. Hey, still study it, get better at it, triple down on the good things. You know what I mean? And so this is a lot of what I'm seeing in coaching still to this day. So that's kind of one pocket. And the second one that I want to talk about, you know, and I don't know how much time we got, but probably got to get going to the end. But like, because you know I can talk for forever. But the second one would definitely be like, you know, anybody that's in the coaching business, like whether you work, you know, for somebody, if you have your own business, remember that there's coaching and then there's the business of coaching. Right? Coaching, business to coaching. So great at coaching doesn't mean you should open a gym, for instance, right? Because now you're going into the business of coaching, and that's sales, marketing, systems, fulfillment, leadership, team building, right? And so, you know, and I think that even if you never have your own business, you should still learn sales, marketing, systems, because it's going to make you be a better coach. It's going to make you be able to sell more people so that you can help more people. It's going to be able to actually help you, you know, sell ideas, because once you sign somebody up, you still have to sell them ideas. You still have to be good at storytelling to lead them to a certain destination. Right. And that's another mistake that I see, is that people don't go into that side of things, the business of coaching. And look, sometimes it might be like you go from 20 clients to 50 clients. Do you know what's going to help you out? Having better systems, right? You're getting burnt out because you have, you know, you're doing things the old way, and you could conserve 60% of energy because you don't understand how to build better systems, right? And so that another thing, right? I've got coaches like every, 6 months, 9 months, if I have some coaches as they get more and more and more clients, right? They're like, I can't handle this. And I'm like, look, let's step back and let's look at your schedule and what we can do better, and then all of a sudden we start reorganizing it. And 3 months later, like not a wisp, and basically they're training double the clients that they did a year ago, and they are less stressed out than they were with half the clients, right? And guess what? I said, look, what's going to happen is there's going to be another kind of ceiling that you're going to hit and go like, I can't do this. This is too much, and then we'll get more efficient and effective, and you'll be able to do it again, right? So I know that's a lot. Like if you're a coach and you're hearing me talk about this shit, you might be like, God damn, what do I do?
Right.
And honestly, like all that you can do really is go back to like thinking about that video game, right? Like you're hitting a boss right now. And maybe maybe the next step in the level one boss is like, you got to get better at communication. You're having a tough time communicating with clients. They're not staying, you're kind of hitting the wall there. Okay, cool. You get better at that, meaning you learn, you apply, you reflect, you see that you're getting better, you keep practicing that all the time, and you get to the level 2 boss, and level 2 boss be like, man, I got to improve my systems a little bit. Like I have to actually see what I'm doing and then start intentionally making my systems better. And then maybe hiring somebody to help me with that, or, asking a friend that's really organized, how they're doing it, how they're able to coach 50 people when I got trouble with 20 people, right? Mm-hmm. And then you get to the next boss, and that's life, man. You know what I mean? Like that's life. But going right back to, the thing that we kind of started, which is, environments, right? Put yourself in that environment. I mean, this is why, like I said, sometimes it's not even the knowledge that you gain. It's just the fucking environment of coaching programs, gyms, business masterminds. That is 10x valuable of what you invest because of the people that you surround yourself with, and the standards that you start adhering to change your life.
That's amazing, man. I hope that all the coaches and trainers were taking notes right there, man, because that's a lot of great stuff. That's a lot of great value. So I hope that that everybody listening, including myself, because I'm going to go back and listen to this right away. But man, that's really great stuff, dude. And another thing I wanted to just bring up real quick before we wrap this up is the Vigor Life, the Vigor Ground Summit that you had. Obviously there was a couple of monkey wrenches thrown into the mix this year, but you guys still pulled it off and you did it all virtual. So kudos to you for that, man. And so I guess I just want to ask you, is that available for people to purchase that weren't able to make the event, or is that not something that you guys are doing?
No, it is actually. So we're transferring it all to a membership site, but even right now still, so vigorgroundsummit.com is still live. So it's vigorgroundsummit.com. You can go, you can pay for it. If you do, we add you to a Facebook group. All the recordings are there. There's 30 presentations, 30. I shit you not, like some of the presentations are pretty much like, do this step by step and it'll make you thousands of dollars. I'm not even like, I don't give a fuck if you have no clients right now or very little client. Like seriously, that's how good some of the stuff is. So is it worth 197? I think, the answer, but there's like 30 presentations like that, from the top people. So it's we had to redo it in 4.5 weeks, basically 4.5 weeks out from the date we were confirmed 100% that we couldn't do it live, and we pivoted, and there was over 230 people that have watched the recordings from all over the world. The feedback's been nothing but phenomenal, and so if you're looking to, we talked about those things. We talked about, there's sales, there's marketing, there's systems, there's fulfillment, there's leadership. All of those get covered on top of there's 5 different presentations on program design from John Russin, Mike Robertson, Alan Cosgrove. I'm probably missing somebody else, but I mean, it's each one of those presentations is worth the 197. There's 30 of them. So still go to vigorgroundsummit.com, buy it. We'll add you to the group. You can rock and roll and start making some changes.
Dude, it's Murderer's Row every year. You guys have the incredible speakers. That lineup is always unbelievable, and it seems like it gets better every year. And I was so excited to get out there this year to Seattle and come see you and everybody else that was going to be presenting. But definitely, we know that it didn't happen that way. But being a part of the virtual summit, I mean, it is a no-brainer. It was honestly, you could have charged $10,000 for the information and the value that's in there. So I would highly recommend it. Any trainer, any coach listening, that's definitely something that you want to get your hands on and be a part of, because it's just with that list of presenters, how could you not learn it? Forget about one nugget. You know, you go to an event and you're like, let me just take away one nugget. There's like 20 nuggets you could take away from each presenter. So it's definitely a
It's
no-brainer.
funny. Dave Rack used to be a Cressy Performance. He's with the Marlins, I think, right now. With the Marlins, Major League Baseball youth performance. And he just sent me like yesterday. He's like, man, I've been getting into the summit like a little bit late. He sent me like 12 pages of notes. He's like, dude, I may be going through like 8 presentations, you know, just like tons and tons of notes and shit.
Yeah.
And it really is like basically because me and Krebs were kind of emceeing like half and half. So I haven't gone through all of those. So I've been going back and watching them. And it's like, you know, because for me, I have 3 presentations, but at the same time, like I'm learning all the time. You know, to me, it's like I'm always learning, man. Like it's like podcasts, right? The goal is whether it's my podcast, like I'm trying to learn. You know, if it's on somebody else's podcast, yeah, I'm gonna usually talk more, but I'm also there trying to learn. You know, it's that's the whole point, is like that you should always be like, if you believe that everybody has something amazing about them and something miraculous about them, guess what happens? You become curious. That's the, you know, and I'll leave on that note, man, because like, I think the problem is that we assume and we judge people, you know, like first impressions, this, that, the other. And then sometimes we go, oh, that guy's made a ton of money, so I'll ask him questions, you know. But what if every person that you meet, you're like, man, there's something amazing about them. Let me find out what it is, because there is. There's something amazing about everybody.
Right.
And what happens is if you have the mentality, what you do is you end up learning from everybody, and you don't block yourself from learning from people, you know, and keeping that curiosity mindset throughout your whole life, even when you quote unquote made it, which I don't really fucking know what that means anymore, you know, but it's like, you know, I still, when I go to events and I'm not presenting, you know, like I'm in the first row taking notes, man. Like I'll never be too good to stop learning. And that would be crazy. That'd be insane. And I'd say that the best of the best, that's part of the principle, is that like no matter where you get to, they keep an empty cup, you know what I mean? So that they're always being able to like leave certain beliefs and kind of adapt, you know, or say take on new ones as well as knowledge, you know. So make sure that you're doing that no matter what, whether it's, you know, sign up for the Vigor Ground Summit, you know, coaching with Chris, coaching with me, you go into another mastermind where you believe that like, you know, is going to level you up. Doesn't matter, man. Like you got to constantly keep putting yourself in environments that challenge you, where you're open to learning, stay humble, stay hungry, you know, hustle your ass off, and things will be good.
That's amazing, man. Luka, where could everybody find you, dude, if they want to get in touch with you, if they want to coach with you?
I mean, like I'm on a lot of platforms, but here's the deal. So on IG, on Instagram, I do my handles at Luka Hocevar. So LukaHocevar. We share a lot of stuff there. Usually kind of leads to other places. Then I got a YouTube channel. Actually, been really a lot of stuff goes there. So from the podcast to, you know, exercise videos to everything else, same thing, Luka Hocevar. Then Vigor, I got 2 podcasts. One is the Vigor Life podcast. And the other one is the Business and Fitness podcast, which is more so on business marketing side of things for gym owners, for coaches. The Vigor Life podcast is all types of shit. I mean, honestly, it's a lot of coaching and, you know, a lot of things we talked about. But, you know, I have people on that talk about program design. I talk about program design. And, you know, the last 2 that we're about to launch one is Chris Duffin. If you guys know, one of the strongest people on the planet, Kabuki Strength. Mike Russell, those 2 are going to get launched. Before that, I just had Jay Ferrugia on. I had Dr. Andy Galpin on. I mean, it's been a murderer's row there. I mean, there's 120 plus episodes, and there's 30 on the other ones. So there's 150. I mean, you got basically like about 5 years worth of shit to go through if you want to. But the Vigor Life podcast will make you a better coach. The other one, I think, a better coach and a better business owner. But the other one is a more, I would say, directed into the business side of things. And last but not least, like Facebook, Vigor Ground Fitness and Performance. That's where I'm really active with, I say, especially videos, mostly around training and things like that. So those are the platforms. And I run a mastermind with my partner, Steve Krebs. It's called Yo Grow Your Gym. I love Yo MTV Raps. So our logo is like Yo Grow Your Gym, like Yo MTV Raps. Very simple to understand what we do. We help people grow their gyms, build gyms, or grow their coaching programs. And so actually there is YoGrowYourGym.com. You can go there and find out more about what we do. But man, I'm like, if you reach out to me, I always reach back. I'm not too good to do any of that shit. So love and appreciate you for listening through this. And just so you know, I'm only on half a can of caffeine a day. Usually I'd be like about 1.5 in, and my word count might have been even higher. So.
Oh my, it's only been half a can so far?
Only half a can.
That's a world record for you, dude. What time is it over there? 2:00?
It's 2:15. Yeah, it's been such a busy day. I haven't been able to sip on my usual, man. So, but you know, when I'm talking to great people and in a great environment, man, I get fired up. Caffeine. So.
Well, dude, listen, man, this was awesome. I feel like I could talk to you all day, and I just want to take a second to acknowledge you and say thank you for all the information, all of your help over the years, man. You've helped so many guys like myself, and girls for that matter, learn, grow. And I just want to thank you so much, man. And it's really an honor to be able to call you a friend now. So thank you, brother.
My pleasure, brother, man. It's my pleasure.
All right, man. Hang on the line for a sec. We're going to wrap up. But guys, thank you so much for tuning in. Reach out to Luka. Go check out his stuff. And we'll catch you next week on another episode of the Iron Life Podcast.